Well, welcome. I have the Aaron Clift experiment. I knew I'd do something like that. I always get nervous right
All
at.
good. Hi, it's
Welcome.
nice to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
Definitely. Welcome to the Noble Shire Progressive Discussion here at Progressive Rock Central. And this is, of course, Aaron Cliff of the Aaron Cliff Experience. See, once a
Experiment.
experiment. Yeah, but well, anyway, it's that Jimi Hendrix influence. I can't help it. Um, but yeah, definitely the experiment. And welcome. Glad to have you here. And we're going to be talking about their album back from 2023, The Age of Misinformation. And we all actually are living through the age. It's not is it going to happen? It is happening, and it is unfortunately happening. And yesterday made it perfectly clear if you had no uh, further questions or guesses. That whole experience was horrible for this country to live through. But anyway, we'll be talking about that here in a minute. They are the Aaron Clift experiment. I'm going to get it right. Is from Austin, Texas. He's from Austin. We were just talking a little bit about the weather and the heat down there. And this is actually the band's fourth album. It was released back in January of 23. And tell us a little bit about how you guys got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I've been doing music most of my life at this point. Started out as a viola player,
Oh,
and
wow.
my dad was probably my first exposure to music. His family's all very musical. My dad played piano, sang. He did choir stuff. So I always had my parents encouraging me to do music. And for the longest time, I thought I was going to be a classical composer and kind of pushed myself in that direction for several years. But uh, I also grew up loving metal, grunge, and then progressive rock was kind of my next extension into music, and that was the moment where I knew this is what I really wanted to be doing. It was I'm trying to remember
Which
how
age?
old I was. It
Yeah.
was like I think I was like 15 or 16, so I knew about a little bit about some of the progressive rock bands from my dad's LP collection. Like he had Tarkus on vinyl, he had Aqualung, and he had Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. So we listened to those albums. I listened to the Beatles, and I didn't know there was a term for all this stuff. I just used to call it weird rock music. Especially the one in Tarkus. I'm like, what is a Tarkus? And I see this armadillo tank on the cover. I thought that was interesting because we'd see armadillos sometimes in the Texas Hill Country. But then I hear the music. I'm like, what is this? This got keyboards all over it. Then we had a tape of them doing some live stuff, and they were doing pictures at an exhibition. And I had just learned about Mussorgsky from being in orchestra. So I'm like, wait, there's a rock band doing classical music. I always thought it was like those guys on Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Somehow both my parents had individual copies of that album. So there was like the Night on Disco Mountain, which I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
was pretty funny, or was it Fifth of Beethoven, something like that. So I thought that was like how you combine classical with rock music. And then one of my friends in high school kept raving about Pink Floyd, and he lent me his copy of Dark Side of the Moon, and I listened to it, and I thought it was amazing. And for some reason, it reminded me of classical music, and I
Yeah.
didn't didn't know, but this was back in '95, I guess. So the internet was still relatively new for music discovery, but somehow I went online. I went to All Music Guide's website and looked up Pink Floyd, and it said their genre was something called progressive rock. I'm like, what does that mean? What are they progressing to? And then it describes it, and it's like uh, describing it as combining like classical and jazz with rock music, and then listed some of the bands and artists. So I mentioned Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, and like Jethro Tull, the weird folk guys, and then I mentioned Queen. Queen is being part of that too, and mentioned their album A Night at the Opera. And my dad had Queen one and Sheer Heart Attack, so
Yeah.
I used to listen to that stuff. But yeah, I went out on my own to a music store, and I came back with a copy of Every Good Boy Deserves Favor by the Moody
Oh,
Blues. That was one of the albums that got recommended to me. Images and Words by Dream Theater, and
yeah.
Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. And that was my true introduction to progressive rock on my own. And Genesis, I thought I was surprised the most by them, because I'm like the I can't dance guys. That's
Yeah.
that was, and then it said Peter Gabriel was once in band. I'm like, the Sledgehammer dude was in Genesis. What? So I put on Selling England by the Pound, and first song I hear is Dancing with a Moonlit Night, and I was hooked immediately. But it sounded so different from
Yeah.
any rock music I had ever heard, and from there I just started branching out. I started listening to King Crimson and Rush. Started getting into prog metal. Then I started getting into jazz fusion and jazz music, more experimental stuff. And that was kind of like I found my calling. I was like, I want to not just listen to this music, I want to make it someday. And I had originally gone into classical music, but I kind of feel like it wasn't quite my calling, but it was like maybe a doctor trying to find their particular specialty and starting out in the wrong one.
Yeah.
Uh, but I realized in about 2008 that I really wanted to do a rock project, and I I'd been writing stuff. I'd been kind of messing around on my digital piano. In 2009 was when I got my first synth, and from there it just expanded, and I started writing the music that would become our debut album, Lonely Hills, in 2012. And from there, it started growing. Originally, I imagined it for keyboard and drums and vocals, but I knew to give it that rock edge, it needed guitar, needed bass, and it just kind of grew from there organically. And over the years, I've tried to explore new angles to the sound. I'm always like pushing myself to try new things, new ways of writing music, new kind of instrument combinations, which I can get into a little bit later. But that was that was kind of my initial push towards music, and how I wound up doing the Aaron Clift experiment. It just became an outlet for me to be able to do the music that I really loved.
Well, you nailed several questions there, so we
Nice.
won't ask those, and that's okay. So what would you say? You mentioned a lot of them. What would you say are your favorite bands from those
Uh,
eras?
Yeah,
Okay.
my three favorite
Okay.
are Genesis, Rush, and King Crimson, at
Okay.
least in the progressive rock field. And I have other ones too. Like, I listen to a lot of metal. I listen to a lot of jazz, classical. I've been since Ozzy Osbourne passed away last
Oh, yeah.
month. I've been revisiting basically all his work. So I created the Ozzy challenge. I'm trying to get my friends to do it too. I said, all right, the challenge is you got to listen to every single studio album that Ozzy has been on, either his starting with in chronological order. So I'm going through the first eight Black Sabbath albums. Now I'm on his solo career. Just finished No Rest for the Wicked, so I'm about to start No More Tears, and then I'll circle back around to Black Sabbath again when I get to 2013, and then so yeah, I still have a lot of listening to do, but uh, I've been gaining sort of a new appreciation for Black Sabbath and Ozzy as well.
Yeah, my brother, who's unfortunately passed away, he loved Ozzy and Black Sabbath, all that stuff. I I never I respect him. I think he's a great singer. The music was good, but I was Led Zeppelin and Genesis. I mean, it was too far metal for me. Now I love metal, and but still, yeah, I feel very bad for his loss. He was absolutely, and I'm learning more about him than I ever knew from all that's been out there in the news. But yeah, no, he was definitely a leader in the metal realm and deserves all the ovation he's getting.
Yeah, I just thought, man, the way he went out like less than 3 weeks after
Can
his
you
final
believe that?
concert,
Yeah,
uh, I was just impressed with he he to me, like, yes, he had his problems, but the way he treated fans was just, he was amazing. He
yeah.
he always used to yell to people, "God bless you all," in concert, which I thought, this, you could tell he was having the time of his life on stage, and that's why I love doing music too. It's just that feeling of being able to give something to other people.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. I found him on Facebook. He actually had some, I think, Facebook ads out there, and that's where I first heard him. And clicked, pulled the trigger, clicked to see what it was like, and great music. And I was like, I definitely gotta try to get in touch with this guy, see if he'll let me review his album, and he did, thankfully. And now here we are talking together. Will you? I know it's 2023, but a lot of things happened during that time frame. Have you toured Age of Misinformation, or will you? Are you still touring it? And then the next question is, are you working on a new album?
So yeah, to answer your question, I was kind of going through some challenges with my day job, making it very hard for me to focus on the music side of things once I had released the album. But the things have improved since then. I do plan to get back to live shows again, hoping to do some dates and give this album its proper rollout in a live context. But I never sit still, so I have been working on a lot of new music in the last really the last 6 or 8 months, but sort of a steady stream of things that I'm working on, and I do share clips every now and then with people on my email list and sometimes on social media, but mostly for the subscribers. So there's a link to it on our website, aaronclift.com. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm trying out some new things right now. I think it's going to be really cool once it's done. I can't reveal too much right now; it'll spoil the whole project. But I can say what I'm working on right now is kind of it's more than an album. It's going to be a multimedia project.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I know another band that's doing something similar to that. Can I just ask you, do you think it'll be before the end of this year, or will it be 26? Most likely.
I'm thinking probably late 2026, early
Okay.
2027.
Oh, okay. And tell me about the multimedia part, because there's a band that heavy metal band that's coming out, and they're going to actually the only way you can see their album is going to be through movies. You go to the
Hmm.
movie theater, and they're going to play it live
Yep.
along with it. Is it similar to that, or tell me?
Kind of, I mean, the storytelling aspect for sure, but I'm working kind of cross genres right here, so there's a music and storytelling aspect to it, and that's about all I can say without giving away the entire concept.
All right. Um, but will it be also social media, or where are you going, or is that too much asking too
No,
much?
I can. So there'll be an album. I want to do a vinyl rollout with this one. I've been talking about this for years. I think this will lend itself well to a vinyl release, CD as well, and digital, obviously. But there's going to be several other components to it besides just the music.
Okay. Excellent. Um, again, no name or anything yet. Too early.
Uh, I have a working title in my head, but yeah, a little too early at this point.
No problem. Yeah, no, we don't force anyone to say anything. It's just if you want to mention it. And by the way, as far as the links and everything, at the end of this, when I post
Mhm.
this, both on Progressive Rock Central and when I post it on YouTube, there'll be access to all the links to his YouTube's, his all of his websites. So definitely go in there and please subscribe to his. And while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to mine as well, trying to build this base so that we can keep this going and keep all of these guys with fans behind them. All and when I say all these guys, his band as well as all the other bands that I interview and talk to, we want to just help them as much as possible. They don't have the wonderful labels that Led Zeppelin and all those big bands had back in the 70s, giving them all sorts of money and airplanes and all the things that they got. They don't
But
have,
we clickbaited you in the best way possible, right?
yeah, and that was good. Yeah, so that's about the extent of what they can do. They're doing it themselves though, without very much support. And so anything we can all do to help these guys build an audience and get their music heard, we appreciate that. So yeah, please do it. It's not for me. It's for everyone. So the album is called The Age of Misinformation, as I mentioned, and I don't have to tell anyone. They know we're in that age. It's the age of Fox News, and they unfortunately won the election as well. How do you how can we what are some of your suggestions about how we can resolve this, how we can turn this around, make the truth again, and avoid this or not avoid, but get out of this age of misinformation that we're in?
Yeah, I started writing the album really in earnest in kind of late 2019, or but the whole concept came together in the summer of 2020, and that's to me the if you just remember what was going on then,
Oh yeah.
felt like the whole world was falling apart. Still kind of feels that way. We had the pandemic was raging. I was stuck at home most of the time. There was a lot of worry in the music community about was this going to kill the music industry, and I just remember during that summer, just felt like every day there was some horrible piece of news coming out with unrest and protests, and I kept thinking to myself like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And all I could think of was about the uh, this idea that we were living in some kind of new age, and I just kept thinking about the as the election started to head to the election season, people were talking about how misinformation was a big problem with the 2016 election, and that 2020 election was going to hopefully be different. But I saw all the signs that things were probably going to get a lot worse before they got better. And unfortunately, I was like, I kind of wondered when I released the album in 2023. I actually released it on January 6th, 2023, and that was purposeful.
Mm.
It was what really kind of helped tie the album together was that whole uh, insurrection.
That's right.
But uh, I just remember I wrote the song "The Age of Misinformation," and I knew right then I was like, "This needs to be the album." And I had already written "Liar" and "Bet on Zero," and I thought, well, there's probably and "Dark Secrets." I'm like, already there's kind of a running theme going on about lies versus truth, and the whole concept really is like the first four songs are exploring what is it like to be in an age of misinformation where people around you are lying, where politicians say they're going to do better but don't, or nowadays they don't even have that pretense anymore. They just declare war on the truth. But uh, really, the I wasn't really positing any solutions. It was more just like, what is it like to be in this situation? What does it feel like? And I that's kind of where the imagery in the age of misinformation, this idea of being like in a jungle or a swarm of stuff just kind of surrounding you, and that was kind of the push the album needed. But I was also kind of feeling like if I'm telling a story, uh, I want to tell the bad stuff, but I'm like, there's got to be a silver lining to this. Like, can we find a way out of there? Uh, I don't claim to know the answer. I just think that it's going to take it's going to take people standing up and saying no. We're tired of this. And uh, if you look at history, uh, sometimes it just takes a couple really brave people to consistently say no, and other people realize, you know what, they're right. We got to stand up. Uh, I never thought in my lifetime I'd be worrying about the end of democracy in the
Yeah.
United States, but here we are. Um, I feel like my contribution to this whole discourse is really just reflecting on what does it feel like and what can we do about this, but not necessarily having an answer, but getting people to kind of think for themselves on this.
All right. This, and you're fairly new to this. I've been watching this since the late 70s and 80s.
Hmm.
I mean, this was the beginning, or Fox may have been around even earlier than that, but that's when they really started to, do the lies and the, misinformation. And I think they did it because they knew they couldn't win elections. And I think it was after Bush, they just, they had 8 years of that. He got us into a war again, lying. And I think that was like the end of it. And there was the American people finally, I thought, we're never going to go down that road again. Well, here we are. But the hard part in this whole equation is what is the truth? I mean, I think we know what the truth is. It can be proven. And as a professor, as a a social scientist, we can study it. We can give measurable reasons that this is the truth. But you still have to get people to understand and then believe, yeah, that is the truth, instead of this emotional, well, I don't like you, I don't like this, I don't like that, so I'm going to believe this. Even though I really don't believe it, I'm going to do it because I don't like the other. And there's got to be a way. And I, I, um, I see, even though I'm never going to say it's good that he's in power, I am seeing that even his people, when you look at these um, congressional, I forget what they're called, but when they go back to their hometowns and their
Oh, the town halls, yeah, they've
town hall
been
meetings,
those have been
and these people are
quite
yelling.
eye-opening.
And these were the people that put him in, him or usually it's a him, but him or her in office, and they're like, what are you doing? And yeah. So, not that it's good. Absolutely, he should not be where he's at. But maybe that is the thing that's going to hopefully convince these people that they haven't been listening to the truth, that it's time to find, the real truth. I hope.
I always appreciated the progressive rock went kind of beyond a lot of the typical
Yeah.
rock and roll subjects of you know sex and romance. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think back to like King Crimson's first album, 21st Century Schizoid Man, Pictures of the City. They're all
Yeah.
like social, political commentary. War Pigs by Black Sabbath, like that whole era of music. My parents grew up during that time, and
Vietnam.
they were very politically active. My grandmother was very politically active too. So uh, I grew up kind of around that music could mean more than just entertainment, that it could also be uh, important for social movements
Yep.
and
Social change.
just really putting yourself out there, telling everybody, sharing your opinion on stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've got to find a way besides the obvious, which is civil war, which we no one wants that. That, unfortunately has been the history and tradition of human society is, well, let's go and fight this thing out and resolve it. I don't think we need that. I don't think anyone wants it. Um, and hopefully we can avoid that and uh, come to terms with this because we've got to find something that we agree on. We can't keep living as this two-state society, and the embarrassment of the world right now. I mean, you've got Canada doing things that we should be doing. You've got Mexico, all these
Mhm.
other places around the world advancing and putting in, transportation systems and logistic systems that are outpacing us. And while we're fighting these stupid culture wars, it's just insane that we're wasting not just time, but money and human ability to grow. And yeah, we've got to really in the next 2 or 3 years, we've got to resolve this one way or another. Or, uh, as many people have predicted, we will become lower class, lower social and economic, most important society and country. It is really, this stuff is now affecting the economy. I mean, and he's trying to hide that. He's trying to put away all the maps and all the economic data and information, but
Yeah.
you can't hide that. It's going to happen. When enough people are unemployed, um, then it gets sometimes violent, and we don't want to go there.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the themes I explored on the album, was the sort of the inherent violence that comes with a war on truth. That if you listen to the beginning of Age of Misinformation, I put in a lot of news clips there to
Yes.
kind of. I got the idea from Dream Theater did this on a couple of their songs, but
Yep.
I know there's like a long stand. Queensryche did it too.
Yes.
I was thinking in particular about the song Empire
Yep.
when I was writing the Age of Misinformation, um, and just how all this stuff ties together. So I'd found news clips from commentators talking about the subject of misinformation. I think one of them was from a TED talk. The the voice that greets you that says misinformation is everywhere. It's flying all around. That was from a talk about how to deal with misinformation, and then it kind of leads into the sound clips from the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. And uh, to me, it was kind of like when I had written the song already before the Capitol riots happened, but when that happened, I realized the beginning of the song and just kind of was long and instrumental, and I was like, it needs something here to kind of tell the story a little bit with not just the lyrics, but also through sound clips. So that was where I got the idea, and I had always been interested in taking kind of a cinematic approach to music. I guess it came from doing classical music for years and listening to lots of video game and movie soundtracks. But that was a fun moment, and I had never done anything quite like that in an Aaron Clift experiment song. Our other albums do have like little bits and pieces there, but I just thought it would be interesting to do that. And there's of course a long history of that in progressive rock, but it's nice to be part of that now.
All right. And those first four songs that you mentioned lay out the scenario, the situation we're in, the age of misinformation, liar, bet on zero, and dark secrets. And you do a fantastic job there. And then we're going to talk about how things might change. But before we do, one of the wonderful things you added here, and it's like going back in time when, yeah, progressive rock was progressive. You had a brass band, big
Yeah,
boys brass band. It's like and Bet on Zero, and it's like, thank you for that. I mean, what inspired you to do that? And
yeah.
again, thank you because not enough bands. I mean, I know probably I'm probably the only one, but I consider some of Chicago's work
Mhm.
progressive. I mean, no,
Oh
not
yeah,
like,
my dad was a huge Chicago fan. He
yeah,
used to play "Color My World" on our
yeah,
piano at home. That was my first exposure to them. But we used to listen to like 25 or 624,
yeah,
Sunday in the Park, things like that. And I think my dad had been in a cover band that did covers of Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and I think that was where he finally got to use his French horn in music. But like the Who was doing stuff like
yeah.
that too. They did stuff with a lot of other musicians, and I think me being in classical music and listening to lots of jazz, I was always interested in finding new ways to combine other instruments with traditional rock ensemble. As it happened, when I started writing the song in late 2019, I had been going for a walk, and sometimes when I'm on a walk, I can just kind of daydream,
Y-
get music ideas in my head, and I had the bridge section to that song. I had this rhythm in my head, and it was like don't do 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 do, and I was like, it felt a little bit like traditional like big band swing
Yeah,
stuff that I'd listened for like Duke Ellington and it was some of those guys,
swing, swing,
and
swing. Yeah,
yeah, or Charlie Mingus, some
yeah.
of his stuff. So I remember I kept singing this in my head, and I was like, I don't know what time signature it's in. And then I came home and tried to transcribe it. I spent like an hour trying to transcribe it, and I realized it was in like 13/4 and 7/4 time.
Oh my goodness.
It was pretty, and it was a swung tempo, and it was a, like really weird bass line. But I'm like, there's something there, and that was like the kernel of the idea. So then I was like, what can I do beyond that? So I started doing variations of that riff, and it became like a bass line. And I started playing around with it. I was like, it has kind of a bluesy, jazzy feel to it. Uh, and I started writing. I started just like kind of improvising, singing to it, and then originally I wanted the title of the song to be less than zero, but I'm really glad I didn't do that because it ended up being a song by The Weeknd that came out like a
Oh,
year before this album came out. A great song though, but
yes.
anyway, I thought I was
I
like
think there's
less
a
than
movie too.
I was like less than zero, but what rhymes with less? And I was like going through my rhyming dictionary. Oh, bet. Oh, that's interesting. What would betting on zero mean? Then I got this idea of like gambling, a gambler who is a zero, and that just kind of became the story of the song. And I thought, okay, so this like about a gambler in the 1920s, 1930s. He's wheeling and dealing, and then I kind of shared that with the band, and our drummer at the time, Chase, was also playing percussion in Big Y's brass band. He's like, "This totally sounds like a jazz piece. You should add." you should add some horns to it. I bet Big Y's brass band would love to do this. So I contacted Will, the trombonist who plays the trombone solo on the song. He was helping lead the band, and I said, I would love to get you guys on this. Would you be interested? And he's like, yeah, we'd totally be down for that. So I
Good.
was like, okay, tell me what's in your ensemble. So it was two saxophones, two trombones, three trumpets. Yeah. So seven piece brass. And I'm like thinking to myself, what have I got myself into? I've never written for a brass ensemble. The last time I did that was like years ago when I was writing for orchestra, but I was writing for like a full orchestra. But I was like, I'm gonna do this. I
Good.
listened to a bunch of big band stuff. I was listening to some Glenn Miller, some Duke Ellington, like stuff with all those guys, Gene Krupa, and then that was kind of like the idea of like maybe I should have a drum solo in this song, and then I was like maybe everybody should get a solo in this song,
Yeah.
and it just kind of grew from there. I also think Frank Zappa was probably a huge influence on it too, because he used to do all sorts of stuff with big band. I remember
Yeah.
his joke, I say joke, cover of Stairway to Heaven ends up being an amazing cover anyway.
Yeah.
But he gets the guitar solo with a whole brass section, and it's just awesome. So yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of Chicago in this song. There's a little jazz. There's a little Frank Zappa. Um, there's even a little bit of ZZ Top in the
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, it's easy.
You got to get ZZ Top in there. I mean, they're from Texas too.
There you go. Yeah, he's yeah. All right. So then so the first half, the way I look at it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, the first half of the album kind of sets the stage and puts you in the realm of this age of misinformation. And then the second half kind of gives you some light and shows you this is maybe how we can get out. Uh,
Yeah.
is that fair or
Yeah, definitely. Rise, which is the fifth song
go
on the
ahead?
album,
Yeah.
kind of opens up that more optimistic second half. That was actually the last song we wrote for the album, but I knew there needed to be something that kind of bridged the two halves, and uh, that one started out as a collaboration with me and Anthony Bassini, the guitarist in our band and on the album. He came to me with this chord progression in a weird time signature, of course, and it was kind of a jazzy chord progression. We worked on it together, and that was the first half of the song. And I added the organ part to it, and then trying to figure out what time signature I was in, then adding vocals and lyrics. I had this idea in my head of doing kind of like a call and response chant and
Oh,
something that's kind of
yeah.
anthemic. So I think that's where the idea of like rising became. But it was also that the song starts out kind of in a minor key, and then the second half of it, uh, Anthony brought in this guitar riff that was very, it just gets brighter and brighter sounding. So I thought this idea of like progressing in the literal sense of like progressing from darkness to light. Um, I'm a huge nerd of history, and I love a lot of Greek mythology. So
Yes.
we've featured Greek mythology in a lot of our other songs. But I remember when I was taking philosophy class in high school that I had learned about Plato's allegory of the cave, and I always thought that was a really interesting story about the concept of people who've been living in a cave and they're seeing these shadow puppets on the wall and they think that's real life, but they don't know because they've always been there. It's basically the plot to the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
So then if you were to pull somebody out of that into the light and they finally saw what was real, like, would they grow from that experience? And Plato was using it to illustrate like how knowledge can make you a better person.
Yep.
So for me, for me, that kind of tied everything together. I wanted to retell that story, but in the context of this album, like how can we go from being misinformed to being informed? And
Yeah.
if we're informed, would we make this a better place?
No, I absolutely agree. As a instructor, we need education, and definitely, and that's one of the first things that any dictator tries to get rid of is education. We
Get
don't.
rid of the education and the arts. It's always first on the chopping
Yeah,
block. This
yeah,
is why we need artists more than ever, like right now.
definitely, definitely. What about color of flight? Talk.
Yeah, that one is actually that is an old idea that I had started working on in 2016. It was a vastly different form. I think it was like a very frenetic tempo. The uh, the title was actually one that we had thought of for our third album. We ended up going with "If All Goes Wrong," but uh, I remember it was a rejected title, and I thought that was a cool. It was a cool title. I'm like, what about it? What is the color of flight? What does that even mean? Um, that's a good question. I think it's for me the idea of like just kind of becoming a higher version of yourself.
Yeah,
Breaking through the black and white to me is like black and white thinking or just simplicity. Like how can you become more enlightened? So it can mean many different things, but that was kind of the idea I had in mind for the song. But I shelved it originally because I wasn't happy. I had a bunch of other lyrics for it. They weren't working. The tempo just felt wrong. I brought it to Anthony. I said, I had this song. I think there's something there. And Anthony, being a great songwriter in his own right, he studied at Berklee College of Music. And
oh wow.
funny enough, that his songwriting professor is the same songwriting professor I learned from. I didn't go to Berklee, but I actually took some classes from Pat Pattison when he came to Austin to do some speaking engagements. I was in a music organization. They told me about it, and his songwriting books kind of changed my life, helped me learn all sorts of craft, just tricks of the trade for writing good lyrics. So part of why I love working with Anthony is he'll look at a song and he's really good about helping find out what works about it and what could change for the better. And he's like, why don't you just get rid of all the lyrics except for these two lines? And I was like, you think so? And he's like, yeah, why don't we try that? And let me try it with a slightly different arrangement. So he came back to me and he was just treating it as like a almost like an acoustic folk song, very simple.
Hmm.
And I loved the foundation that he was giving on acoustic guitar. And I said, okay, what can we do? Because there's not a lot of lyrics. The harmony kind of evolves, but like, what can we do to make it feel like it's a story and it's growing and telling something through music? And I just kept coming back to this idea of like shifting musical textures and different kinds of instrumentation. I'd been listening to a lot of Mike Oldfield, so I'd
Hmm.
listen to Omadon. I of course listened to Tubular Bells. My dad used to play the opening theme on piano, so I knew about him for a long time. And I thought, okay, what if I did a 5 minute version of Omadon with this song? It seems like the right moment to do that. So what you're hearing on the album with all the different synth stuff is actually what I did on the demo. I didn't change anything on the synth parts. We did add real strings though. I love working with string quartets.
Yeah.
I'm biased. Viola is my first instrument, but uh, it was so nice to get that organic element combined with kind of like all these crazy synth textures that kind of weave in and out, and um, having kind of that balance between an organic and ethereal sound was it was a really fun experiment to do.
All right. Now the next song, Malaga. I hope I got that right.
Malaga.
Malaga. All right. Um, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so
What was the inspiration?
Malaga is a city in southern Spain. It's on the coast in the Mediterranean. I was a music and Spanish major in college, and I did a study abroad in Madrid. And when I was there, I traveled around a lot of different parts of Spain. I never made it to Malaga, but I did go back to Spain on my 1 year anniversary with my wife. We went to Madrid, and I'd kept in touch with two of my friends from Madrid, Luis and Coque. And Luis and Coque, I met Luis actually through a Dream Theater message board.
No kidding.
I was very active on the Dream Theater message board back in 2001, 2002. And I remember posting and be like, is anybody here in Madrid? I'm going to be in Madrid for 6 months and would love to meet any Dream Theater fans there. So Luis messages me, and he's my age. We meet up. We went to a bunch of concerts, and he was the one who introduced me to Pain of Salvation, although I think Koke was the one who introduced him to. So it's like, another band that I got really, really into. But anyway, when I went back to Spain in 2019, Luis was still in Madrid, but Coque had moved south to Malaga. And I was like, well, we're only going to really be in Madrid for this trip. He's like, no, you should come to Malaga. There's a high speed train. It'll get you there in like 3 hours. And I'm like, okay. So my wife and I go there, and we spend a day in Malaga walking around with Coque. We had a great time there. Uh, I just love the history of the place, but what inspired the song was actually when we were going back to Coque's place. He lived about 10 miles east of Malaga, in one of the other towns in the region, and he was driving us back there, and we were going along this road that was cutting through. You had the mountains on one side, and then you could look over the cliffs and see all the coast there, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Uh,
When we were in his town, we were walking around like right along the coast and seeing all the waves hit, and I just started thinking about history, like history in a sense of like, what does it mean to be, a human in history, that all these people who've come before you have stories to tell, and you can learn a lot from stories. So a lot of the imagery there is based on like real places in that region. I talk about caves. There are some actual caves in that region. I never got a chance to go to them. We didn't have enough time on that part of the trip, but I've seen the pictures. They look amazing. I want to go back.
Definitely
But I just thought about like, and the idea of caves, like the idea that history kind of builds on itself, and
it does.
you to understand the future, you need to understand the past, and the only way we can move forward is to learn from our history. So that's kind of vaguely what the song's about. I mean, it can mean a lot of different things, but that was kind of the feeling I had when I went into it.
Thank you. That was an incredible story. Now, there's another place my wife's going to want to go. uh,
I'll be the next tourist board
there you go.
salesman for Malaga, or I'll just lead around all the English speaking tourists.
Thank you. No, no, yeah, she's definitely going to want to look at that now after that. She
Uh,
always listens to these after. She's kind of my editor.
yeah, message me. I can give you some places to go in the town.
Thank you.
We had some great times there.
Absolutely. And then you close everything with the weight of the world. And yeah, it there's a lot of weight on the world right now. There's a lot pending. And like I mentioned earlier, we got to get some things resolved to move forward. And not just us, we definitely do here in the United States, but these things are going on all over the world as well. Not to the degree that maybe they are here, or at least not a lot of those fascist insurrections and people running for election have been put down in Europe, thank goodness. uh, but they're still out there. They're still looking for their chance. And go ahead. Enough for me.
Yeah, I had written Weight of the World, I think was one of the later songs that I wrote on the album, but I've traditionally closed a lot of Ace albums with some sort of ballad song, and this particular one, I'm trying to remember, was it, I think I had the chorus was like the first part that I had written, and uh, this the lyric then ended up becoming like what the whole song was going to be about. But the idea of shedding the weight of the world is, can we uh, not only move towards truth, but can we emotionally move away from this sort of cult behavior to something better? And I definitely still feel that pull, like this horrible situation that we're in the United States and really in other parts of the world too. But it does kind of weigh on you, and it does kind of feel like being sucked underwater. I had written this song, and when I was writing the chords and the verse, I remember with the synth tone that I had chosen and just the way the chords work. One of my band members had commented that it sounded watery, and that was where I had this idea of being kind of trapped underwater, and it kind of grew from there. But yeah, it was fun to write a song that has those huge contrasts in them, because I'd always enjoyed that kind of aspect of grunge music and progressive rock, the just the wide range and
Yeah.
dynamics that they explore, and I wanted to do that again. So that's where this song kind of came to life.
Okay. Well, one other question. Are there some bands that you would like to collaborate with? Um, because I'm one of those guys that really believes in collaboration that helps bands progress. They learn from each other. And I think you have a lot to teach people, believe me, after talking with you like this. Um, but yeah, are there any bands you would like to reach out to and maybe mention or?
I mean, there are a couple bands that I've been really into the last 2 years. Some of them are ones that I know the members personally, other ones not so much. But um, well, I'll give a shout out to my friends in Transit Method. They're a heavy rock band here in Austin. I'd say they're pretty close to prog metal, but they kind of mix heavy sort of like, imagine the heaviest stuff that Rush did mixed with like grunge and metal, and you got Transit Method. Those guys are, I've known them since 2013. We've done a couple shows together, but we've never like recorded anything together. But I'm envious of all the musicianship and talent in that band. They're really good. Another group that I've loved for years is Bent Knee. I don't know if you've ever listened to them.
Heard of them?
Um,
Yeah.
Met them at Rossfest in 2016. That was the year before we played at Rossfest. But I saw them there. I was like, oh my God, this is like the coolest band I've never seen before. I met them after the show. I friended them on Facebook, then started going to like all their shows every time they came to Austin for like the next few years. And those guys are great. I love. I've gotten to know Chris and Courtney from that group, but they're wonderful people. They're so talented, and they did go to Berkeley. I'm like, yeah, figures. But yeah, we've chatted a lot. I'm always curious to know kind of like how they develop their ideas. I've asked them a few questions about how they approach songwriting, but that's
Composing, yeah.
for me, like collaborating with other artists. That's always the thing I'm most curious about with them, is like, how do you think about music? Like I would love to learn how to think like these people. I guess the third band I would say is Leprous.
Mhm.
I actually discovered Leprous through Bent Knee. I went to see them, Bentley. They were opening for Leprous, and I'd never heard of Leprous before. So it was Bentley, Leprous, and Haken. Incredible bill.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leprous came on, and this was like some freakishly cold day in Austin. It was like 20 degrees outside, and I'm bundled up, and it's an outdoor show. I'm bundled up in a parka and winter hat and everything, and then Leprous
What
comes
went
on
on?
stage. Leprous comes on stage. I find out they're from Norway. I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably a nice sunny day for them. But I remember the first thing I heard is they had a cellist, and then I heard Einar Solberg sing. I was like, "Whoa, who are these guys? This guy is incredible." Like, I was so blown away. I started listening to Melina like that week, and I was like, "This band is incredible." And I started listening to Pitfalls, and then Aphelion is like my favorite album of the last 5 years. Um, Now they're kind of uh, they've been a major inspiration on my songwriting too. But I've always wanted to talk to those guys and just like learn a little bit more about like how they approach music and what they're into.
Don't be afraid to reach out because
I'll be
I've
like, hey, I might have
I,
to contact some of the people from Bentley and like, hey, do you have any contact info for the guys in Leprous?
you just never know. I mean, I've contacted people I thought wouldn't even look at my email, let alone respond to it, and you don't know. And as you mentioned already, but the music community seems to be just a wonderful community, and I think that's why I enjoy these interviews so much
Hmm.
because people are willing to talk. They're very down to earth people, even though everything that you've said so far makes me think this guy is, higher level thinking, higher level music, higher level everything. But you're still down to earth. You're still a person that can talk with another person and relate to other people. And that's, yeah, and I always tell a story about the two Steves from GTR and their willingness just to come out and say who has any questions after a show, after playing a big long show. So yeah, they're just there's this feeling in the music and cultural community that we want you to ask. We want you to reach out. Don't be afraid. And I'm saying that not just for you, because I think you already know that, but anyone else that's listening. These people are wonderful
Hmm.
people. They're part of our culture. They're helping to build our culture, and don't fear them. Fear, the people that are running this country right now.
Yeah, oh, I really appreciate that. Those are very nice words. Um, I'll tell you this one story. So, my mom likes to remind me that when I was a kid, I used to drive her nuts with questions. I had so many questions about you name it. Uh,
That's how
my
you
my,
learn.
it's funny. My 4-year-old nephew is the exact same way, and I indulge him. He wants to know something, so I show him now. I can show him like I couldn't do this when I was a kid, but I just show him YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to. I think I gave him some. Uh, I think we put some cinnamon. I remember it was like a cinnamon roll, and he wanted to know what the cinnamon was, and he's like, "Where does it come from?" And I'm like, if I'm looking up videos, where does cinnamon come from? I'm like, man, I'm learning stuff today too. And
Yeah.
I was like, my mom said I used to drive her nuts with questions. She said I had just seen Back to the Future Part Two in the movie theaters, and they were talking about the the timelines in there. And I'm 8-year-old me is asking my mom. She's trying to turn left in heavy traffic. I'm like, Mom, what's Einstein's theory of relativity? She's like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
it, Aaron. We're getting you an encyclopedia. And I think that's why I liked music. I don't know. I was the kid who always asked questions, and my parents never never told me to stop asking questions.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
ended up asking questions ended up becoming my way of engaging with music. Like, what if we did this? What if a song could do this thing? And then it's like, I don't know, what would that sound like? And
Let's
then
try.
there you go. That's let's try it. That's why I call my band the Aaron Clift Experiment, not the Aaron
You're
Clift
always experimenting.
Certainty.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's the extent of the questions I had. You've covered the album, you covered, the future work you're working on. Um, do you have any other questions, comments, or things that maybe I didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, just a comment on your backdrop. I wish my backdrop was as cool looking. I just have my dumb exercise equipment in the background, but uh,
It looked like a
I
building. I thought it was a building, but yeah.
that's why I blur it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this. I do have some posters to the right of me from different shows that my band has done, just to kind of commemorate the occasions. But I couldn't help but notice those posters in the background got your name, and I was like, those look pretty darn cool.
Well, that is Ed Unitsky. So if you need any kind of album cover work, I always push him. He's just amazing. The guy, uh, he has a talent, and I'll put his uh, link to his information. He's got all sorts of
Mhm.
art. Once you start looking at it, you'll say, "Oh my God, thank you for introducing me to this guy.
Yeah, I
He's
mean
going to make my next album cover."
that was
But
exactly the impression I had when Fujihiro Sugawara, when I saw his artwork. A couple of people in the Austin music community told me about him. I saw his work and it blew me away. And I was like, and then when I contacted him for the Age of Misinformation, I told him what the album was about, and I said, just do a concept, and he gave me the album cover image of a bird in a cage, and
yeah,
some for some reason it reminded me of Twitter, which
yes.
it's no longer Twitter, it's X. But anyway, I asked him about it. I was like, "Is that a Twitter reference?" He's like, "No, I just call this guy Birdman." I was like, well, I think it's pretty cool actually, and
Yeah, yeah,
for
I agree.
I yeah. And so anyway, yes, I'll have to check. Please send me the link to this artwork. I'm always loving to discover new artwork stuff.
Yeah, but I just asked him, would you be willing to do something for this? And he goes, no problem. And yeah, he's brilliant, brilliant artist, and came up with this. I mean, within about 5 minutes, he sends me back. I was like, didn't you need a little more time? Nope, there it is. And yeah, there was nothing I would change. It was perfect.
Yeah,
And
fits right next to your Genesis poster.
well, yeah, the one above that, the metal, that
Mhm.
actually was my idea. Well, the Noble Shire too. I love the Lord of the Rings and the whole
Ah,
idea.
me too.
And so I wanted something like that. But the good thing about both posters, uh, the right hand side has the mountains. Washington is full of these beautiful mountains that
Hmm.
actually, there's places you can go that almost look like that. But the left side, that is an actual place. And if you look at my Facebook page, I think I have a picture of my wife and I standing on the island that looks at that the little island in the background there is Deception Island. And this is near Deception Pass, where there's a beautiful bridge that goes over that. But below that is Rosario Beach. And when you walk through, the Rosario Beach is beautiful in its own right, but you can walk up this trail and you'll get to what's called, I think it's Rosario Head or Deception Head. I can't remember. But it's like this flat sort of landscape that you just stand on and you've got water all around you. And then you can see this little island. So I said, "Can you put that in some kind of frame?" And he knocked it out of the park as he usually does. But yeah, definitely Ed Unitsky. I'll send you information on him, and I usually include him on all my posts because he was so wonderful to just immediately say, "Yeah, I'll do that. No questions asked."
Nice.
Great guy.
I'm looking on in another screen, looking where it is. Oh man, so it's right by the San Juan Islands. I sold. I want to go there sometime.
Oh yeah, I have always wanted. If I wasn't living where I'm at, which I love right now, no questions in Bellingham, but the other place would be Whidbey Island, and Whidbey is
Hmm.
absolutely a dreamscape. Every inch of that island is beautiful in some way. The other one on the right hand side, you haven't mentioned yes, but I'm sure you've probably heard yes. Um, but that's from the artist and now Dean Roger Dean,
Roger Dean. I thought it looked like a Roger Dean poster.
and he did that for at the time Mike Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, and I was in Seattle back then. And they came up, I think it was a 25th, I can't read it from here, but I think it was a 25th anniversary of Starbucks. And he asked Roger Dean, would you do something for me? And he did. And they had these and they were free. And I'm like, why don't people? I mean, I picked up, I don't know how many of them because I was like, they're going to be worth something someday. But they're beautiful in themselves. But that's where that one came from.
Very cool. Yeah, I like it. I like the mix of artwork you've got.
And then the CDs are actually CDs. I mean, these are the ones on the, hopefully, there we
Is that
go.
Deja Vu down there?
I'm sorry.
Is that the Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young? Is that Deja Vu down there?
No, that's actually Hannah. She's Hannah Wyatt from right here in Bellingham. Wonderful violin and fiddler. And she has a solo album that we've seen her live and bought the album. But like the Blackheart Orchestra, I've got Nick Fletcher. He's coming out with a new album. Uh, Bella Morte has just been, if you haven't heard, it's heavy metal, but what they did was unbelievable. I've been wishing for this for years and years. And I think I've been saying it in my reviews, I've been saying it in interviews, I've been saying it anywhere I could. Collaborate with artists. Well, and again, I don't know if she was listening to me or just did it on, I'm sure she was inspired on her own. But anyway, what she did was they didn't have certain instruments that she's always loved to play, Japanese instruments, instruments from other countries that, no one in, she's from Belarus, no one in Belarus, she couldn't find artists to do that. So she went out on the internet and requested these people to, participate, and they did. And so right now it's definitely and it's on my right, it's over here too. Um, but they went pearl hunting is that's the name of the album, and she pulled in a bunch of pearls. If you get a chance, listen to that album. You may not like metal, but
I love metal, so I'll probably be interested. Yeah, send me a link
this is a
to
different
some of
kind
these recommendations. I'm man, what a world we're in. There's just so much. You said pearl hunting. It's kind of like pearl hunting. There's so much music out there that I don't know about, you don't know about, but we can find it just recommending stuff to each other.
yeah. And absolutely, yeah, I can't say enough about that album right now. It is my favorite metal album, and it's probably that and then Atomic Time. If you haven't heard Atomic Time, you got to hear that. That is very special. They're from Brazil. So you get to meet, and that's why I love this. It's not even a job, it's a hobby. But that's why I love this. You get to meet these people from all over the world, and people are, and you already know this, but and I've said it many, many times. There's so many great artists out there, and you just actually said it that we don't even hear about. There's people that I'm sure that I'm missing this year and I'm really reaching out trying to find as much uncovered, you know, beauty and treasures and doing my own pearl hunting. And you'll never, and there's somebody that I'm going to miss. And well, Bella Marte, they've had another album, and I totally miss that, but I did buy it now. And so I miss that, and maybe next year we'll catch whoever those new bands are, or you as well. I missed you in 23, found you in 25. So you keep searching, you keep hunting, and you'll find those people. But I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, I took up all your time. What is there anything else you wanted to mention or
I'll
say?
just mention if anybody is interested, visit our website. You can get all the scoop. It's aaronclift.com. I know you said you were going to link it, but yeah, we've got all our albums are for sale there. We'd love for you to check out, listen to them, and yeah. And I always tell people subscribe to our newsletter. That's the best way to stay in touch. Uh, I have people email me all the time with following up on newsletters, asking questions. I love talking to fans. So yeah, would love to start a conversation. But yeah, thank you again, Mark, for having me on here.
No, no, thank you for showing up because it's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
Like I say, when I first heard the Facebook ad, I was like, this definitely looks interesting, and I'm so glad I reached out.
Yes.
And
Good clickbait.
glad to have met you, listened to your album. You got some big things coming next year or the following year, and just keep me updated on that. Keep us updated. I know you will. And if you haven't heard this album yet, give it some love because before we go to the new stuff, he's got a pretty damn good album right now.
Thank you.
Um, yep. Thank you very much, Aaron Clift, the Aaron Clift experiment. I'm going to say it right. The age of misinformation, which I hope we, not the music, but I hope we as a country will move out of that and world. But he's right on the target on what's going on that we're all going through right now. And please give it a listen.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anything else you wanted to add? Otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording and then you and I can talk for just a brief.
Yep. All
Nothing else?
good. Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you again, Aaron. And hold on one second.